Welcome to another episode of Resortera Wave. I'm joined by Oscar here to talk a little bit about the games that Mexico played. 7 goals conceded, 4 against Uruguay, 3 against Brazil. Um, Only 2 scored, no, against Brazil. Uh, quick, Oscar. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on these games? What stood out? What I think we did sort of predict it, but there was that little hope that you know, maybe not get destroyed, no, especially the Uruguay game.
I think the Uruguay game was the more surprising one, no?
Yeah.
But I think off air, I think between the WhatsApp, we said we might get destroyed against Uruguay. We were trying to be a little bit more optimistic for the audience, but I think the Uruguay for me surprised me a lot, and it just goes I guess the coaching difference, right?
The coaching, and don't you think that it was also the player selection? Because I think that was a big topic of
Yeah,
he
that's
did
true.
it.
Yeah.
He picked youngsters and los puso al matadero, no. So maybe the interpretation of things, but also the planification. Let it be known that I feel like Jimmy has been very strict about that. Okay, Chiquito Sanchez played in the final against Columbus, and we haven't seen anything of him in these games. So he's giving proper rest to these players. There's the other side of the coin that says that maybe too much rest caused Malagon to get injured just several days ago, and he will miss the Copa America. No, so it's very very hard to balance. But I think the Uruguay game was a disaster because Uruguay did put a very strong side, not the starting 11, but compared to what Mexico put on the field, there was a big difference, no, between one side and the other.
Yeah, because how many A players did we have? Maybe one and a half.
Nomás
And the
Edson,
half
¿verdad?
Edson, and I put the half either Orbelin or I'm looking at the lineup right now.
Artiaga, because
Arteaga. So maybe two. Half and half is Alvarado, Pineda, or Arteaga.
yeah,
Versus Uruguay, they got your boy Noodles, who I called it too. I'm going to say Darwin this podcast because he deserves the respect now.
yeah,
Got Nunez. Um, you say Jimenez is a starter for them?
yeah. Jimenez from Atleti. I
The
think
keeper also?
Pelestri might start. Pelestri might start. You
No, I
think?
don't think so.
You don't
Because
think so?
he was on loan at Man United, wasn't doing well, and then he got moved to Granada and they relegated.
But fíjate, I
But they
remember
have
with Diego Alonso. With Diego Alonso, Pelestri would play a lot as well.
that's true.
Maxi Araujo from Liga MX, I think, from Toluca. I think he has a potential to be a starter because he's had several games. Maybe the midfield wasn't really the starting one for Bielsa, but nevertheless, I think there was a clear that the idea of how to play from Uruguay was way more executed than what Mexico offered. No,
I mean, how many first-time caps were there too, or less than 5? Was it Guzman, the keeper who was atrocious? Sorry, Chivas fans, he was.
Tala, no, very nervous el
Um,
muchacho.
Chiquete también, right? Less than
Chiquete,
5,
but I think Chiquete has played before, no? I think so.
but less than
And
five
and and,
caps,
and
maybe even
less,
less than 2.
less. Como se dice? It wasn't an opponent of the caliber of Uruguay. Less caliber teams.
Pero todavía
Um,
like less than 5 caps, right? Probably.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, Chino también, right? I think he doesn't have more than 10.
Yeah, very, very, very small.
So, like you said, a combination of that and I don't know. This is to me too name. I feel like this is coaching too, because why are you gonna experiment? Because it was experimental a lot too. I mean, also they had to rotate because of like the first team players just started getting integrated to the camp. But when you play the non-FIFA friendlies, especially with the Liga MX space, that's where you do that. That's where you give Tala the chance, not against
Uruguay.
Uruguay. Like
Yeah.
so. That's in my opinion. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of
it's hard. It's
generational.
hard. It's hard, ¿no? O sea, yo creo que también one of the things that really sheds light on the issue right now, in my opinion, is that esa falta de roce that the Liga MX player doesn't have anymore, that used to have when they would play Libertadores. It's sort of like the fact when Jimmy Lozano was explaining his decision making as to why he went with that lineup against Uruguay, he did sort of kind of say these players really don't have a chance to play with against these type of players, no, or players of this caliber. So
Which
might as well do it now. But that just also speaks about the lack of experience that they're getting in Liga MX, no, not competing in tournaments like Libertadores or Sudamericana, which I think do influence or give the player a better level. I think overall.
I don't want to say too many outlandish things, but también again, it goes back to our last podcast where I'm talking about the hypocritical sense of what you're saying, of what Jimmy is saying, because you say that, but let's say we had what was the last friendly he had? I'm trying to think.
Was it su madre? That's a good question. Ahorita estoy blank with the last ones. I know
Oh,
he had
hold
like
on.
Colombia. No, but the last games was the Nations League,
Bolivia,
bro. Oh, Bolivia was
Bolivia.
the last, yeah.
So, or even when we had the Nations League too, that's where you put the guys in. Like, if they can, if they can't do it in that when you already play them in that, what makes you think they're gonna be able to do it?
Against Uruguay.
You know what I mean? So
Or
like,
Brazil.
what do
That means.
exactly? So what do you mean like that they don't have the chance of doing? First of all, they might not have the the privilege or the skill set to even be in that moment yet. Like the
Yeah.
Joven, like a lot of crap was given to the goalie from Chivas. And two, you gotta remember too. I think they said he's only had 25 division
Something
matches.
career starts, yeah.
It's no manches. Like put him in the game like these famous modelos. Like put him in those first. And if you imagine if you can't handle that, what makes you think you can handle a preparation match for the Copa America? Like I don't know. Again, just
Lack of organization or just lack of
exactly,
criteria, no?
exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. And
so
it's
I
and
think
it's and it is what it is, no? It's sort of like El Tri right now is playing with so many variables, which technically, um, the fact that it's playing with so many variables and there's so many possibilities, um, it's not easy right now. I mean, it's looking very bleak. I know I read the statement right now. There's a statement from the Ecuador coach. I haven't verified it, but there's a statement from the Ecuador coach saying that Mexico is the leading candidate to win the group.
I saw that too. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's very courteous from his part, but I would say his team is the one that should be winning the group with the talent that he has available. But then again, I saw the game against Argentina and nothing was going offensively for Ecuador. I don't know up to what point this coach that they have right now is the right coach for that team, no? And that's an advantage for Mexico, to be honest. Because if Ecuador was coached by Alfaro still, Alfaro, who's now the coach of Costa Rica, it would be a different story. I would really consider Ecuador the main favorite over Mexico. But right now, there is that, the notion that Mexico, for the most part, will be the home team in all of these games in Phoenix and LA and Houston. You'll have the crowd in your favor, but as we have seen, that really doesn't play a role. I mean, look, the 7-0 against Chile in 2017 happened in San Francisco or Santa Clara, whatever, with a pro Mexico crowd, no? And they got 7 goals past them. And that team, with Osorio, is considered the last great Mexican national team when that got together and actually played attractive football. So who knows what could happen now with this sort of team? Even if El Tri makes it out of the group stage, it's not. I don't think they passed the quarterfinals. No, I mean, it's very difficult to see this team reaching, for example, the semifinals.
Mm-hmm. And let's say if we win, what group do we get from? Is that the Argentina group? So
Might
Argentina
be
or who's in their
the one
group?
that has Peru.
Argentina, Peru are that in that group
Yeah,
too?
yeah, yeah. So it could, if Mexico wins second and Argentina wins that group, then it's Argentina Mexico probably, no?
Yeah.
Right now, we're just making things up, but imagine facing Argentina in the quarterfinals. It's. I don't think there's a good chance that Mexico walks out away with a victory. Um, what were there positives? Like, I mean, I know when you see defeats, especially the Uruguay one, the one against Brazil, at least it wasn't a 5-0, 5-1. No, it wasn't a nasty result, but nevertheless, still, you
Yeah,
you you
that's.
lose in the last minute.
I think the Uruguay game definitely had way less positives, and the only thing that I can think of, I don't know, maybe you can jump in on this to remind me a little bit, was at one point Jimmy put Edson back at center back, which where he belongs. Other than that,
Yeah.
no creo nada más. And I guess if you want to throw a bone to Alexis Vega, I think he did a little bit more than when he came in también. Pero yeah, I think like I said, Uruguay was the uglier of the bunch from those matches. The Brazil game was, for the most
And
part,
it's interesting.
decent.
I think one of the main developments you brought in the Edson being as a center back. I think another one that was interesting was where
Oh
Orbelin
yes,
played against Uruguay and where Orbelin played against Brazil, and the difference. He looked more comfortable in that position against Brazil. No more deeper, more in tune to the Orbelin from the Chivas days. No, with Almeida. So those, I think that was a positive. Luis Chavez, I was surprised Luis Chavez didn't look so confident in the game against Brazil. Just he wasn't. He was last with Charlie. No, it's not a good pairing. I mean, I think we've seen it several times already, and it's just not a good pairing for some reason. You can make the argument that Charlie's just not that player in the national team level. Um,
I think
as
this
to
goes back to Nate, but we were sorry to cut you off there, but we talk about kind of like the system. Charlie came from a system in Cruz Azul, and funny enough, we're actually talking about this even at the elite level,
yeah,
such as like Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden with England. I think it's the same thing with Mexico too. Like Charlie, who knows too? Maybe Salcedo wouldn't even look too good with the national team, or Huescas también, because Charlie's in form. He's probably the most informed midfielder, and kind of look at him. He was pretty much woeful for the most. Where he just didn't look like what he looked at Cruz Azul. To keep
yeah.
it short, but
And that's
it's
something to make note of, no? And I think that's the difficulty of things sometimes is plugging them in and expect to get something similar to what they do at the club. Um, you know, porque in the midfield with Cruz Azul, I mean, it's him, Charlie. Who else is there?
um,
Este,
it depends though. I mean, with
the Argentine, that's like
yeah,
a 10.
yep. But
Um,
we, wait, hold on. I'm gonna just pull up the last match because
yeah, right now I'm trying to think it out loud. Um, Me falta uno ahorita.
Alexis Guti Gutierrez is behind them too. Wow, Favelli, right?
Faveli is Argentine, right?
Yeah, him. Yeah, pretty much Favelli, and then Guti's right behind him too, también. And then he has the two wingbacks, Rotondi and ¿cómo se llama? Huescas también, and Antuna also goes in there too. So
Yeah, and
just different
Rotondi
setup.
does a lot of stuff in the middle too. I think sometimes that goes
More of the
unnoticed.
defensive work though. He goes in.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's
And then Lira, plays as a center back, but he's capable also to move into the central
he
defensive.
goes in. Yeah,
And I
which is
think a lot of
way
those,
different.
yeah, and that helps a lot, and that's the thing. That's the issue I saw a lot with the first game and the second game. Is just the movements of the players wasn't in sync. They were moving all over the place, and that's been an issue not only with Lozano but also an issue with Martino. That there's it's so much space left between them,
Yeah, you saw that a
especially
lot, right? I think that's the biggest thing in both games.
yeah, especially when they try to go and do the high press, they leave so many goals behind that it's just so easy for the opponent to just demolish them right away. Um, I think against Brazil in the second half, there was a little bit more compactness, and we didn't see that much magic from. Well, of course, Hendrik scored, but you were still able to sort of hold it through. tanto Vini como Hendrik, no, not they most of the time there was some marking going on. They really didn't go that much. We didn't have that much free space, to be honest. But I think that it is a learning curve. It's pretty obvious that it's a learning curve for some players and for the manager. No, for Lozano, I think these are high level games where his coaching is still very primitive. No, it's not so strong to other coaches out there. Um, but he's serene. That's one thing that I'm going to say about Jimmy Lozano. I think Jimmy easily could have lost it, especially after the Uruguay game. The criticism and what the sort of questions that he gets asked, but he's always calm, no, and hopefully that calmness he's able to transmit to the players, no, that this idea that these two results against Brazil, Uruguay don't determine whether they do well or not in the Copa America. He was very, from the get go, he was very sort of straightforward that they were preparation games. And when it says preparation games, that sort of gives you leeway. Anything can happen, especially against two teams that are likely going to be in the final four of the Copa America.
No, I agree. Like, I think you mentioned this too. And I think he did transmit that to the players because, like you said, that the players could have lost it too.
Yeah, he could have lost it after that first one.
And against Brazil, they kind of not redeemed themselves, but they at least,
they showed a different attitude.
Yeah,
a different attitude. And to say that they played better, they still lost, no. And then Brazil didn't play with their best 11. They well, technically all of their players available can make a best 11, but it's not the elite best 11 that Brazil has available. But I think they got this whole week in San Diego to prepare the game against Jamaica. I mean, I don't think Mexico has ever had so much time to prepare a game against Jamaica as they do right now. If you have all this time, I mean, it's the easiest. Well, not I won't say easy, but I mean, it's not. You're not playing Germany, you're not playing Colombia, you're not playing Ecuador, who's in the same group. I mean, Ecuador, luckily, is the last game in the group stage. If Mexico does its homework, the game against Ecuador could be just just to determine who wins first or who wins second. But I think that they proved, I think, in the second half against Brazil that they have what it takes to make it out of the group stage. Depends. Well, it might not happen though.
Mm-hmm. Could be. It's a tough one to call, but let me be a little bit more optimistic than me and Akib. When the Olympic team that won the gold medal too, they had a horrible preparation.
Yeah.
Horrible. I mean, you can even go back from the Copa America they competed in, which technically was a failure. In my opinion, I thought it was a very interesting tournament where we sent basically kids to that Copa America. And then all those friendlies, do you remember they played the León Bicampeón, right? Was it that the León Bicampeón that for the preparation? I remember
Might
they played
have been.
León.
Yeah.
We lost to Japan. We lost to Spain también, yo creo. We just lost everything, I think. I think everything. We drew.
Maybe drew was the best result.
And then we opened with a draw in the Olympics también, didn't we?
I think so, against Korea. Was it Korea? Might have been.
Might have been. And even Salcido in the documentary says that we should have lost that game también.
Yeah.
But somehow, kind of like how we approached the Brazil game, we kind of erased everything that's ever happened in the previous game or those previous games, and we just start fresh in the new game, that's when things picked up with the goal from Gio and Oribe, and the rest is history. So
yeah, I mean, but that's thinking overly optimistic, that's kind of like as high as it gets. But one claim that I'm gonna do right now, and it's gonna stay here, is if El Tri does something in this Copa America, a lot will have to do with Alexis Vega and or Piojo Alvarado, because I feel that that's gonna be the player that is gonna sort of find ways to feed Santi and Quiñones, which I think is a big issue. No, it's like, Santi's on the field, but he really doesn't get anything. He doesn't get real good passes to potentially score. A lot of that job will fall on Alvarado and or Vega. I think Vega, with what he's shown, he's a little bit ahead of Alvarado right now. But
Okay.
that's just my observation. I don't know what Jimmy's seen, but I think Vega, he's playing in positions that he didn't play with Tata Martino under Jimmy Lozano. I think with Tata, there was this sort of like idea that he was on the flank and that he would cut in with his right. And I like this idea that he's sort of central and he does have a good sense of the pass. He does see the open man pretty good. He does have a good
Like the
right
link
foot,
up play,
the
también.
link up play. So I think that is. I'm not gonna say that it's an observation I made in the last two games, especially with the Brazil game. Brazil game, I think that's where Alexis Vega really showed. Okay, it was a very pleasing surprise, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a tough one to call. I mean, maybe he might surprise us too. You never know what the. It really depends what his foundation 11 is going to be, in my opinion, también. Because who knows? Like, what if they're not even starters, también?
Yeah, yeah, because you could also make the argument that Chiquito Sanchez is gonna play in that area,
exactly.
which is another name that I left out. But
because I see Antuna starting without a doubt.
yeah,
Santi, I'm
Antuna's a
not even
starter
sure
no matter.
anymore, to be honest. Just because Jimmy, it's not because he's not good. It's just I don't think Jimmy rates him, and that's you know what I mean. I think he goes for. I could see him going for Memo easily, especially because he scored against Brazil.
So you're saying Memo over Santi?
Jimmy, not me.
Okay.
I could see that happening.
I don't see it happening. I think Santi keeps starting. Of course, if Memo keeps scoring off the bench, then some issue starts happening. But I think Santi starts. Y Quiñones también.
I think for me, the important piece will be Romo to give that balance. And I say that because hopefully Edson gets to go
to center, but it's still possible that Edson goes back to the midfield because he's gonna go with Montes and Johan.
I just don't get it, man. Like these guys watch. Jimmy watches. Like if you watch, as a national team coach, right? You watch all your players, right? Especially the ones in Europe with their teams. If you see the way Edson is set up at West Ham, tell me how do you expect him to do what you want him to do with the national team? He's going to do with the national team. At West Ham, he doesn't do that.
Yeah, and in Ajax, he didn't do it either. Although he was in Ajax, he
did it more. He did
a little bit more, but he wasn't the dude.
West Ham is nothing.
In Ajax, Edson was never Frankie de Jong, no? And in that sense of like that type of midfielder. Edson was always sort of like the dude that could potentially transition from defensive midfield role of just the maestro of stealing the ball. And then when Ajax needed another extra center back, it would be Edson who would move back. So I don't understand also. If Romo's working, because let it be known in the first goal, the first goal that Mexico scored, Romo looked pretty good in the pressing and how he stole the ball and gave it to Alexis right away. That's a good play from Romo, and guardando distancias and just like the first game that Jimmy ever coached in the Gold Cup against Honduras, Edson was a center back, Romo was a midfielder, and they whooped the crap out of Honduras 4-0 or something. Could have been even more than that. So that work, I'm not going to say that's always going to work with, of course, other opponents, but it looked comfortable, the team. Why move it? Why move it around?
And here's the thing, too. I know this is a little bit off topic to me, and focusing too much on Edson in some aspect.
But Edson is the captain at the end of the day.
He's the captain, but he's also said in interviews where, like, I'm at most comfortable at playing center back. I forget which podcast I listened to, but he explained his position was like on his stance on playing the holding midfield was like, if the coach wants me to play there, I'll play there. But if I had a preference, I played center back. But because, especially at the national team level, playing for your country, you're the captain, you're gonna play wherever you're being told to, right, Damien?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's where Jimmy needs the authority and the nuance of thinking. Where like, no, you're gonna play center back. You know what I mean? And I think if we brought Orbelin in with Romo like this, I think the balance would be a lot better, Damien, because Orbelin is better on the ball too, Damien, and I think he could distribute a little bit better than Romo, Damien. And then the dilemma is, who do you put up front? Do you put even Alexis Vega there, like you said, maybe, to do a link-up play? Because otherwise, the only other option is going to be Chiquito or Charlie, which I
I
feel like
think
we already
Charlie
seen.
has had many opportunities and he's just not. It hasn't worked. And I think that the advantage about Sanchez, Chiquito Sanchez, is still that Germany game. You know, he was the standout in that game in the sense of like the linked up play and you know the surprise factor in the box. Um,
And he just
he
has a
does
work
have
rate way
goals.
higher than Charlie.
Yeah, that's another thing. A lot of work rate. Now the thing that also, um, I you know, when I see Jimmy's Mexico, I kind of do see an extension of what Osorio tried to do with Mexico. You know, there are differences,
Yeah.
but like Jimmy's proceso is more tied to Osorio. It's like we just skipped Martino. There's like nothing. I think that there's a lot of the nuances and everything. He's trying to get back to what Osorio left with other players, of course, and the talent that Osorio had was a little bit better, if not, you know, way better than what we have right now. But that's where he's at, no? Um, you know, I feel like if Osorio would have had someone like Quiñones on his team, Quiñones was an automatic starter, no? Because that's the sort of player, that he's a striker, but he can play on the wing and then aerial game, all that stuff. I think, for example, with Jamaica, that's where the idea that Chiquito doesn't start that game is probable because of the physicality and the height and everything. So what you said right there, Romo, Orbelin, but deep Orbelin, no? Because then if we say
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Romo Chavez and Orbelin forward, then it doesn't work with Orbelin on the field, no?
Yeah,
So
that's what I meant. Yep.
so it's like it's one of those issues with Jimmy that we do get the sense he knows about the game, but when it's time to execute, he just doesn't do the right decisions. Good for him against Brazil that his substitutions were really good and they worked out. They came back after 2-0. From my perspective, I would, if I was a coach in that game, I would have maybe not made so much offensive moves. They would have been more defensive. But that's just me because I just sense that, um, you know,
Another Uruguay was coming.
yeah, another Uruguay was coming. That's what I was feeling, especially when Enrique came in and Vini came in. But it worked for him. They were able to score 2 goals and almost tie the game. No, so we'll see. We'll find out. But like, it's still kind of confusing to me. Like it's still unpredictable. It could go totally to his favor, but I can also see the other side happening of the team just losing against, maybe drawing against Jamaica, losing to Venezuela, and losing to Ecuador, which I think that's disaster, no? And we'll find out. We'll find out. But I think what I would say after saying all that is I do sense that Jimmy's very serene, very calm, and the players, I'm not gonna say all of them, but they all seem to be on the same boat, and there is a camaraderie going on that it looks well. I'm not gonna say that it's pristine and perfect, but I think there is a benefit that Ochoa's not in here, that Raúl Jiménez is not in here, that Chucky Lozano's not in here, because I think this is a group that is gonna go through this challenge and other people need to speak up, and other people need to take leadership roles. No, this is because with, for example, with Santi Jimenez is not Santi. Santi is the best player right now in Europe. No, no. Well, right now you are one of the main dudes in the team. It's not just that you're good in Europe. You got responsibilities now. The same with Antuna. It's like with Antuna, we've always been sort of like,
Which also another positive, I think, both games.
yeah. I mean, there was energy. At least there's energy from Antuna always, and but let's try to hope that that energy converts into assists and goals. That's the only way it kind of makes
True.
him shine a little bit more, because there was a lot of energy in both games, but it's just the end. The
The
end
end
of it is
product.
just not. Yeah, the end product's still not there sometimes. But look, Antuna no longer is sort of like the dude that scores goals, and he scored so many goals in the last 2 years, even with Tata. Well, right now he's an important player. I mean, there's kids that are crying for his autograph now. So it's like, do something on the field now. You are one of the main dudes. Chuki's not in there. So I think that's going to be interesting to see.
No, without a doubt. I mean, we'll find out in a week's time, right? Or when
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it?
So we still got
Saturday or
time.
Sunday?
We still got time. We got like, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. 2 weeks to prepare a game against Jamaica. It's insane.
Two? Wow.
Yeah, because I think they're playing this on the 22nd, I think.
Wow.
20 or 22nd of June.
They didn't want to
Um,
compete with the Euros then, I'm assuming.
well, they'll still align to a certain extent, but not how we would have hoped for. No, it would have been nice that both tournaments start at the same time. No, and
Especially for us in the States, especially East Coast, you'll be able to what? Basically like the World Cup, if not better, because it'll start from
there'll
9
be
a.m.
days like that in 2 weeks, I think. Pero ya el group stage de la Euro ya va a
Terminar.
terminar y el group stage de la Copa va a empezar, güey. There's still a lot of friendlies going on in the U.S. USA, Brazil are playing Wednesday, I believe. So that's going to be interesting to see the other side of the
Also,
coin.
Nate, not to put some more light on for us, I guess too. I mean, we're going through our
Our
arguably some would say
hardships.
not even hardship, just maybe also worst generation of players to some people.
Yeah, to
But
some degree.
meanwhile, Canada and US have this golden generation, right? And how much did they lose to Colombia and Netherlands?
Yeah, well, he got
Five. They
Canada
got
4-0.
5-4, like, and that's the
Yeah,
golden generation.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
take it with a grain of salt, también. So, but and that was me saying freaking US is gonna be dark horses, and mira,
Well, that was you, bro. You're on
yeah.
camera with that.
But
I
that's
never.
more on Greg Berhalter, on my opinion. But that's another conversation that I don't think anyone cares from our audience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but we'll see. We'll find out. I think there is there is an intriguing part into this. Um, it's no longer a Copa America of like there used to be this sense in other times that Mexico actually had a legit shot to win this thing. They went to Colombia, played a final. They went to Ecuador, they played a final. They went to Venezuela in the third place in 2007. There was legit reasons to.
Imagine we just won one of them. I would take. Would you trade the Confederations for a Copa
Heck
America?
yeah. Copa
Yep,
America, no, that would have been amazing because it was winning it down there, not in
exactly.
Mexico or not in the US. But I think there was a time where there was legit arguments to say that Mexico could win a Copa America. Nowadays, that doesn't exist. I think this Copa America is specific in the sense of, okay, Canada, USA, Mexico, the three teams, the strongest teams of CONCACAF. Who will go farther and who will look better? Right now, if you have to put your money onto something, many will go with the US because, like you said, it's a golden generation. They were the team that, they played really good against England in the World Cup. It left you a good taste analytically and everything. But now I don't know. We'll see. I think this is a good barometer in that sense. None of them are gonna win it, but let's see who can really make a fight and actually compete against the Uruguays, Argentinas, Colombias, um, which one else am I forgetting?
Brazil, if they
Argentina's,
get to
Brazil.
it, yeah.
We say that Brazil's gonna win it. So we'll find out. Oscar, any closing thoughts?
No, not really. I mean,
The
just excited
Celtics
for
are
the
doing good.
Euros.
The Celtics are doing good. No, it looks like a sweep.
Don't say that. Um, telling you, all the Boston people that I'm working with right now, we're just too cocky, man. I don't know what's. Well, actually, my generation it makes sense because imagínate, like my
Yeah,
age, we've only know anything about winning. But I'm just like, I don't know, because I'm a Cruz Azul fan. That's why.
that makes sense. It's like
So
now you're
like
going to
I grew
Dallas, and that might be different. You know.
exactly, and then you just never know with basketball. I mean, like on the Celtics, no one has ever won it, so they don't know what it means to play these games, to play the finals, but they never won it. So
Yeah.
we'll never know. We won't know yet, but hopefully we'll find
All
out.
right, all right. So we'll find out. All right, Oscar. Thank you for joining me in the Resortera way. Thanks for everyone that's been watching. Watched the last episode. Thank you. And then yeah, we'll try to see how far we go this summer with this one. So thank you very much. Take care and talk to you later.
See ya.